Hello and welcome to what I'm hoping is going to be an interesting endeavor where my parents are going to control my TBR for this month. I thought that this month in particular would be kind of fun because it is both of their birthdays. Yes, I am a Taurus raised by two Pisces. Yes, I will be seeking financial compensation. We're going to possibly get to ebooks and audiobooks a little bit later, but we're going to start here with my physical TBR, which, except for a small handful of books that I have like very specific reading plans for, we have 22 books in total, which isn't that bad, right? Okay, so I've laid them all out. I have it all set up for them to come choose. I do have some predictions. I am convinced that my dad is going to pick... I'm talking quietly so he doesn't hear me, but I'm convinced he's gonna pick Remains in the Day because one of his favorite talking points is how embedded the British monarchy was in Germany lead up to World War II, as discussed in this book, and that's the reason I picked it up at a thrift store a while ago when I saw it. So now we know where I get it from. I think my mom's gonna go for the Book of Saints because I picked it up recently, showed it to her, she thought it sounded interesting. It also has a very like fun, colorful cover, which I think is something she'll zero in on very specifically. And then if they really want to get like rude with it, Middlemarch by George Eliot, which I picked up on a whim the other day when I was at a thrift store, and because I liked the cover. I've never had any desire to read Middlemarch. I don't like large books. I'm not that invested in classics anymore. And yet here we are. So therefore, I might get the punishment I deserve. All right, let's see what happens.
Who's going first?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, well, I'm picking Remains of the Day.
Yeah, I called it.
I was going to pick that one.
Because Nazis, you gotta...
Yeah.
I was going to pick that one.
No, you were going to pick this one.
Yeah, you're right. Well,
really?
This one, yes.
Oh.
I'm actually going to pick this one.
Mom, you can't bring your own
I got this
book.
one for
What is
you.
that?
It's the book about sex.
First of
She knows
all,
about sex.
I don't need help. Second
I
of
thought
all,
it'd be helpful. But secondly,
really, you're gonna pick Anna's Week? Okay.
Of
I
course.
didn't think you were gonna pick that.
really, sentimental value. And then I was going to pick that one.
Really?
Because I remember it was a boring movie.
It's not a boring movie.
Yeah. So there you
It's
go.
an amazing movie.
You each get to pick two.
Two.
To start.
Daughters of Forever. That's a good title. I like that one.
Okay, that's true. Topical.
I'm picking Sir Gawain because it's
Why?
depressing.
You picked
Actually, I don't know.
You picked a boring,
I don't think
depressing
it's a happy story, actually. Yeah, enchantment and self-betrayal.
And then we can watch the movie.
Yeah.
Do we have to watch Remains of the Day?
Yes.
Okay. That'll be the conclusion
Okay.
to this project. Okay.
Are we done?
Thank you, parents. Yes.
You're
we're
welcome.
done.
You're welcome.
It's like, I thought someone was gonna pick Middlemarch and I was gonna lose it.
Which one?
No, I wouldn't make you read that.
Here is my TBR for this month from my lovely parents. We absolutely called this one, called a classic, so I think that still counts. Didn't necessarily see these ones coming, but like in hindsight, I see it now. It's been a week or so since we began this journey, and I have read basically that thing. The last 2 days, I was trying to read Daughters Are Forever. I got about 30 pages in, and it is gorgeous, beautiful, breathtaking. Okay, I can tell this is gonna be like an incredible book. However, it's just not itching what my brain like needs. You know what I mean? So today I decided to switch to Anne of Windy Poplars, and this is closer to the wavelength that my brain is like on at the minute. So this is book 4 in the series. The last book we left off with Anne and Gilbert getting engaged. Finally, hello, even though I do felt like that book disappointed me greatly in terms of not enough yearning. You know what I'm saying? Gilbert is at medical school, and now Anne is the principal of a school in a town that's not Avonlea, but like nearby. There's no need to comment on the world's greasiest braid, okay? I'm aware. We're here because it is now time for a new audiobook. So I'm gonna give them each a chance to pick one, and we're gonna start with The Father. Option 1 is a book called The Last Telegraph Club, and it is about queer teens in the 1950s during the Red Scare. Okay? or there's a romance novel called The Love Hypothesis, which is about a PhD student. She's doing something in science. Okay, a woman in STEM. She starts fake dating somebody in the department, which is a romance trope, very common. However, what's unique about this one is that I think it's supposed to be based on like Kylo Ren, Rey, like fan fiction.
I definitely go with the first one.
Okay, fair enough. This is going to be the video that reveals that this is what I look like 90% of the time. I finished listening to the Telegraph Club a few days ago. Actually, okay, we've been busy. I was mostly right in my initial impression of what this book is about. We are following 17-year-old, I think, Lily, who is living in Chinatown in San Francisco. She is Chinese American in the 1950s, okay? So very like Red Scare is in full effect, you know what I'm saying? But on top of that, we are also realizing that we are a lesbian and therefore a threat to national security on many fronts, okay? I haven't read historical fiction in a while, and this book was so good. So good. I deeply loved the like coming to terms with our sexuality moments and how like similar it really is still in terms of just being deeply, deeply interested in certain like types of media, certain images, and being like, why do I care so much about this? But of course, because it's the 1950s, it was so cool to see all of that tied to queer historical context of the time. So a lot of like lesbian pulp fiction novels, gay bars and clubs, a lot of like male and female impersonators, which are like not exactly drag queens and kings in the way that we think of it now, but are definitely a part of like the legacy of gender as performance. There was a lot of yearning, a lot of longing, okay, felt very real. But since I have finished listening to this one, it means that we need to pick another one, this time with the mother. Okay, your choices are limited more so than they would be usually, okay, because I'm trying to pick the shortest audiobooks that I have. Choice number 1 is the first in a series. The series is called 13 Witches, and the first book is called The Memory Thief. Okay. I think it's like a young adult witchy situation. And then the second one is called Taste, My Life Through Food by Stanley Tucci. It's his new like memoir.
Okay, let me confirm. Are those the options?
Those are your 2 options, yeah.
Loki, and I've decided.
Yeah.
The first one.
Okay. The Witches.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, I'm ready.
Thanks. We're outside because we're talking about Anne of Windy Populars, which I finished almost a week ago, whatever. Also, if my face looks like ghostly white, it's because I'm trying out a new mineral sunscreen. Okay, and it's not working out in terms of a white cast, so just like move past it. So the good part about this book being very epistolary, very one-sided, is that we basically get Anne recounting like all of the town gossip of this like new town that she is being the principal of. This book is essentially Anne queer-eyeing everybody around her. I also feel like a lot of the adaptational choices from the Kevin Sullivan movies that I grew up with started to click more with me too. Like I felt like I was like, oh, okay, I know where we are now. Also, my goodness, Gilbert does not feature heavily in this book, even though he's the one who is being written to. They clearly like meet up during the summers and stuff, but like that stuff is very much not covered. Throughout the letters and such, there is some cute little kind of romantic-y things, and it's like, oh my god. But for the most part, when it seems that there is about to be a particular romantic section, I guess, Ella Montgomery just writes like several pages omitted from the letter as if she's like censoring the letter for the reader, which I find so interesting because like given the time period, I'm very curious about like what the insinuation of like what is being omitted is. Is it like particularly just very romantic and lovey-dovey and like therefore private and kind of like gross? Or is there insinuation that there's like a little bit more going on? You know what I'm saying? There was some pretty like parts where they were talking about like making out essentially, which I thought was excellent. I enjoyed this one so much more than the last book. Okay, I'm back in it with the series. Serving working from home realness as always, except this time I'm wearing Emma's romance trope shirt, so it's cuter. I don't know if you feel this way, but although I deeply love spring as a saison, I find it, especially in the beginning, you know what I'm saying, the Pisces, the Aries, is very intense, okay? And thus, things go awry. Welcome to what would naturally be the last day of this experience. However, it's gonna be extended. We do have 2 books to talk about, okay? So this is not as dismal as it may seem. The first is Remains of the Day. Okay, I don't know how to feel about the butler, okay? I don't know if you're supposed to really know how to feel about him. I was talking to my dad about it, and he's not a particularly sympathetic character. I think it's gonna be less so in the movie even, because the whole vibe is not only was he kind of blind to the Nazi sympathies of his employer that he was so dedicated to, but also just like if he had his head out of his ass, he may have been able to like, you know, be a little happier in life, especially in his personal life, i.e. Miss Kenton and their relationship. Despite all that, however, the amount of overthinking that this man does is deeply relatable. It is a little bit boring, okay? It is very much a butler driving through the countryside reminiscing. Like, that's the whole thing. That's what it is. However, the one part I was genuinely screaming at is when his employer, Lord Darlington, makes him give the birds and the bees discussion to his godson. That part was wild. Obviously, very explicitly, this book is talking about the sympathies towards Nazism among British monarchy and aristocracy. So that's like the top most obvious kind of layer, and then slightly underneath that we have this layer about democracy and who is the most qualified to be dealing with domestic and more specifically like international affairs, right? Because this is the interwar period when the aristocracy was still relevant in terms of like the running of the country. And then along with that, in a slightly lower level, felt like there was a lot of discussions about labor that were happening, because obviously this is very like Downton Abbey in terms of we're talking about like the running of the house and the servants and the housemaids and all that kind of stuff. So I felt like there was something there about like the relationship that he was having with his employer and how intense and like dedicated it was. And like maybe it's not a good idea to be that enmeshed with your boss. Like when you're trying to explain to a 23-year-old man. I also finished listening to The Memory Thief, the first book in the 13 Witches trilogy, I believe it is. And it was very good. Kind of felt like a mix of some of the young adult I've read recently. Things will never be the same. This will never happen again. Things will be different this time. I don't remember what it's called. It kind of felt like that, but like with witches, you know what I'm saying? It was very much about like friendships and like growing up, parenting oneself in terms of an absent parent. This book features bad witches, which is hard to bring me in on, you know what I mean? It's hard to like grab me with like an evil witch at this point, you know what I'm saying? However, I think it did a good job of it. It was very like succinct and yeah, built up the rest of the trilogy in a really nice way. Lots of ghosts. Ghosts are good. That would have been good for me to read as a young person because I was so deeply afraid of them and grew up in a 100-year-old house. Yesterday, I finished reading Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Did it take me an extra like 10 days to read a 100-page book? Yes. Do I feel bad about it? No, because once March ended, literally all my brain could like ingest was literally just like gardening shows. It's just like me looking up Monty Don's birth chart. You know what I'm saying? April's going great. It was pretty good. I enjoyed kind of like the lead up, the culmination, because that's what all like the notes and the text are kind of like gearing you towards, is understanding the ending. And the notes were really, really good, very helpful in terms of navigating the text. My favorite thing about the Arthurian legends is very much like the sexual politics of chivalry. A lot of that is about he's staying with the lord of a castle for a part of his journey, and the lord, his wife, is attempting to seduce Gawain, and his whole struggle is that he has to rebuff her in a way that doesn't offend her, but also doesn't compromise his relationship with her husband, essentially. And so there's a part where she's like, are you not Gawain? Like, are you not known for digging down? Something I was really glad that the translator and that was really picked up on in the notes is the inherent misogyny that is the flip side of chivalry, in terms of he instantly blames the wife, even though we come to find out that it was the instigation of the Lord, who was in fact the Green Knight, asked her to do that for him, to test him. And they immediately just blame her and are like, oh, you know, women being like Eve from the Bible, you know. And it's like, Gawain, my guy. Also, an excellent part of this book was how much the Gawain poet focused on his thighs. There was a lot of discussion of thick thighs, which I also very much appreciated. So I think I'm going to attempt to watch the latest movie adaptation that the only thing I know about it is that it features Dev Patel. Hello. Oh my god, is it pronounced Garwin? Garwin? Yikes. I tried to finish Sir Garwin, I guess, movie yesterday and I couldn't do it. What I did like from what I saw was Dev Patel with facial hair, Dev Patel with a sword. What I didn't like was the rest of it. It felt a little bit like what film student didn't get the credit they thought they deserved on their final project and then like took it out on this film. You know what I'm saying? It took itself very seriously, and I completely understand trying to have a more like gritty and like realistic approach to the Arthurian romances, okay, which were very much like, oh, these heroic tales contrasting to like the realities of like medieval life. However, what I think is so much fun about the Arthurian romances is how kind of like ridiculous they are, and that's not just in terms of like, you know, retrospect, it's also partially like self-aware within the text when Sir Gawain is like very self-deprecating because he couldn't achieve perfection essentially in his like behavior when he was being tested by the lord of the castle and his wife, and to the point that like the literal Green Knight is like, nah, like it's good, like you pass, like it's fine. You know what I mean? Like he's holding himself to this like ridiculous standard that everyone around him is like, that's kind of a lot actually. Not to in any way publicly associate myself with Michael Bublé, but yes, we are drinking bubbly water. I keep forgetting to film a wrap up for this video and I just haven't had time to edit, and I was gonna bring, you know, the parents in for the last little moment, but it's just like logistically not working out, okay? Everything's been a mess, but we're in Taurus season now, so it's gonna be okay. The only book that was selected for me that I didn't get to finish was Daughters Are Forever by Lee Miracle. And the only reason I didn't get to this one is because, like I said earlier this month, last month, oh my god, it was so beautiful, like just like stunning literature, and I just very much have not been in like the headspace to give it the like time and attention it deserves. In general, this was a very cute, fun thing to do with my parents. I very much enjoyed all the books they selected for me to read in their own way, and all of them were also very like springy and kind of nature-based as well. I think my parents really enjoyed doing this. There was a lot of interest in the idea of them being able to just pick anything for me to read that's like in the house, you know what I mean? So I'm sure this is not the last of this type of video. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye!